In November 1938, a year after the completion of the last Otori, and with treaty limits thoroughly dead, Japan began work on a new class of patrol craft. These were the 860-ton Shimushu Class. The idea with these guys was that in peacetime they could do general patrol duties in back areas like northern waters. Then in wartime they could transition to convoy escort, minesweeper, etc. In short, they were a more practical version of the Otoris. Being about the same size as the Otoris, they were smaller than most DEs. They also lacked the torpedoes. They didn't need them anyway. Also, they were diesel-powered. This took some load off the turbine industry and allowed for good fuel economy at the expense of speed, which, on paper, wasn't enough to run down a surface submarine, but it was enough to protect a convoy. While the need was obviously for a quick, simple design, they were relatively complex. This explains only 4 being built before the line was stopped. Obviously, but not uncommonly for Japanese escorts, in 1943, these ships were fitted with a single 81mm mortar for sub-hunting. Yeah, you heard that right. The idea was to use them as a poor man's hedgehog. I guess I can give them points for trying, but the practicality of just one? Not so much. Shimushu was started November 29th, 1938, and was completed June 30th, 1940. Kunishiri was started March 1st, 1939, and was completed October 3rd, 1940. Hachijo was started August 3rd, 1939, and was completed March 31st, 1941. Ishigaki was started August 15th, 1939, and was completed February 15th, 1941. Main armament was 3 120mm 45 caliber guns, one at the bow, on the forecastle deck, and 2 single mounts aft superfiring. Secondary armament was 12 depth charges. 2 minesweeping paravanes were carried amidship. Propulsion was provided by 2 diesel engines, each running its own propeller for 4,200 horsepower, which gave a speed of 19 knots, which, again, was acceptable for an escort. In May 1942, all had their minesweeping gear removed and their depth charge stowage was raised to 36. 6 depth charge throwers were also added, and Type 93 sonar was worked in. In August 1943, the 81mm mortar was fitted. Depth charge stowage was again raised to 60, and Type 22 radar was added. In late 1944, Type 13 radar was added to the 3 survivors. Shimushu spent most of the first 3 years of the war first covering the conquest of the East Indies and then escorting convoys around them. In late October 1944, she was fed into the effort to reinforce the Philippines. On November 25, 1944, she had her bow blown off by the submarine Haru. Repairs at Makua would last a month, after which she headed to the northern home islands for the rest of the war. Post-war, she was given to the Soviets. Kunishiri spent pretty much the entire war escorting convoys around northern waters and the Aleutians. Post-war, she was used for reparation duty, but was wrecked. Hachijo spent most of the war escorting ships and convoys in northern waters also. On May 11, 1945, she was badly damaged when she hit a mine and was written off. Post-war, she was scrapped. Ishigaki spent most of the war in northern waters. Near Matsuo, Jima, on May 31, 1944, she was sunk by the submarine Herring.